Thank you. So, May 23rd, 1978. A boy was born in France, not far away from Paris.
March 25th, 1978, a girl was born in the countryside in the state of New York, halfway between Niagara Falls and New York City.
As you might have noticed, her birthday is the opposite of mine, 23/5, 25/3. Of course, I planned it that way so I would be able to remember her birthday. When I was a kid, I didn't really like school, except for math and physics. My math and physics teachers were really great because they were enthusiastic, and I really wanted to learn because of everything the way they loved math and physics and the way they taught it. It was really engaging, and I really loved that.
And I loved school, except for math and physics, because I had this really amazing French teacher. I had an incredibly amazing French teacher. Her name was Mademoiselle Sénécal, and she instilled in me a love of all things French, the language, the culture, the people, just the country itself. And
yes, for me, those math and physics teachers were really inspiring for me, and that's why I loved those math and physics. And for me, enthusiasm was a key from those teachers. So that's one first key, that if you're really enthusiastic, well, that's gonna help people want to learn. And my dream at the time was to live in the US, and I spoke English every chance I got.
And I dreamed of living in France, and I was looking for any opportunity to speak French. And one of the keys, we feel, is that you need to figure out what motivates you. Because a lot of the time, and I hear my kids saying to me, "Mom, I told you so." A lot of the time, we have parents, teachers, and a lot of other people saying, "Oh, you really should do this, or you really should do that. It would be good for you." I've seen it in my life. I've seen it in my kids' lives. If you're doing something because somebody else told you to, but it's not really what you want to do, it's going to be difficult for you to reach your goals. So that's one of the first steps, is that you have to figure out, and it's not always easy, what it is that you really want. And separate that from what did somebody else tell me to do, and then go after what you really want.
And in France, English was taught, and still is in a lot of schools, the French way. So we were struggling through this Brian is in the kitchen method, but someone else talks about it better than me.
J'ai appris l'anglais comme vous à l'école quand on était petit. On a tous eu les mêmes cours débiles. Avec cette fameuse question existentielle à laquelle il fallait trouver absolument une réponse.
Moi, il m'a traumatisé ce Brian parce qu'un jour, j'ai...
I think some people were traumatized by that, but we still remember this recurring joke, Brian is in the kitchen. And we also had to memorize a lot of stuff, irregular verbs, just like that, not knowing really why, list of vocabulary, and so on, and so on, and so on. Lots of things to memorize just because you had to.
Yep. And me as an English teacher, that's why I'm trying to tell people bit by bit that stop with the memorization junk. Teachers don't want to hear me say that, but I'm going to keep saying it because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. In my French class in the United States, we made skits. We made plays. We created TV commercials. We studied the monuments of Paris. We made French recipes. We studied food and we ate French food. That's why I wanted to learn French. That's why I wanted to go to France. It was amazing. So I'm not an IT geek like my husband. I'm a different kind of geek. I love learning about neuroscience, which is the study of how the brain works, in case you didn't know. So do you know that for those of us who study these things, scientific studies have actually proven that information retention works best when we want to remember something, when we are enjoying ourselves, and actually when we're not paying full conscious attention to what we are studying. So we actually have to sort of trick the brain a little bit, because the long-term memory retention goes on in the periphery, in what you're not concentrating on. So you have to sort of trick the brain into remembering something, get the brain to focus on something, and actually what's going to go into long-term memory retention is what's going on over here. It's sort of on the periphery, which I find really, really amazing, but it has been proven true. And so basically, it's when something is fun. We're just having fun.
And talking about that, I always remember when my dad came home with this computer, an Apple IIc. That was my first computer. Yes, we sort of now know like my age. But yeah, definitely. Blood Runner was one of my first game on this, and Wings of Fury and others. Maybe you know it's really old, but that I was mesmerized. It was amazing. I want to know how that thing works, how I can like code myself on this. And that was really something I really enjoyed so much, and I'll always remember. Like one day, like I want to be able to like be able to code something like this. And the thing is that the smart teachers at the time told my dad and myself that no, there was no future in computer science. You know, no need to work in that field. So, right. thank God and my dad that knew better. And actually, I did follow computer science, and I'm really happy about it.
So for me, by the time I got to my second year of university, or college, as we say in the US, I had still never been to France. And I had to get to France. So I applied for the France program at my school, but I was rejected. I was rejected. I couldn't go to France. And so I went to my French professor at the time saying, please, you've got to help me get to France. I don't know how I'm going to get to France, but I've got to get to France. and he said, it's okay. It's okay. You go find yourself an immersion program, because where I lived in the state of New York was really close to Canada, Quebec. And so he said, go find yourself an immersion program in Quebec, in French. Go there, you'll improve your French, come back and reapply to the France program, and you will probably get accepted. So guess what? I did that. I found an immersion program in Quebec. I went, had an incredible time, and I came back to my school, and I reapplied for the France program, and I did get accepted. So what I want to say with that is that sometimes the path to your goal is not always the path that you've planned. But you can get to your goal, but just with a different path. And I loved it. While I was in France, I came to Tunisia, because our school had actually planned a one-week trip to Tunisia, because they wanted us to get to know the French-speaking world. So I came to Tunisia actually in 1999 for the very first time. I absolutely loved it. And I said, I'm going to come back here someday. Well, over 20 years is a bit long, but I'm really happy to be here. And so these are my actual 2 postcards that I have. And so the one from Rouen is where I was at school in Rouen at la Faculté de Mont-Saint-Aignan, for those who know where that is. And it was just amazing. And this postcard is actually La Rue du Gros Horloge in Rouen, which is the place that I really loved because it's very touristy and there's lots of shops and it's just an amazing place. And so this other postcard is from Tunisia, and I bought a postcard because I didn't have a working camera at the time that worked very well. I was 19, so I bought postcards instead. And I bought this postcard because it has a camel on it. And one of the things that we did that was absolutely the highlight of my week in Tunisia was we went on a camel ride in the desert. And I thought that was just the best. So that's why I bought the postcard with the camel on it.
So our key, or something that is key for me here is that don't listen to people that say, you can't do that. You won't be able to do that. You're not enough. Like you don't know enough. You don't have enough. We learn, and there's going to be some other examples again where in my life, yes, believe in yourself. You can do it, and don't let people tell you you can't do it.
And like with your story and my story of getting into the France program that I so badly wanted to go to, and a lot of other things in my life, you can never fail. And there's a famous quote from Thomas Edison that I absolutely love. He said, "I have not failed. I've only found 10,000 ways that will not work." And that is absolutely the mindset that you need to have, because all of the great inventors, the great scientists, all of the greats, they failed, quote, quote, thousands and tens of thousands of times before discovering the thing that they are known for. It's just that they didn't see it as failure. It doesn't mean I'm a failure. It just means I found this way that doesn't work. Well, maybe tomorrow I'm going to find a way that will work. And there's always a way to achieve your goal, even if the path to get there is not exactly what you planned.
So I also had this friend, American friend Liz, who came to France with a group of college kids.
I had this friend Liz that I knew from high school in my town of Fulton, New York.
And this friend invited me to her wedding. Really nice setting, you know, an outside wedding, like on the lawn of the church, like in movies, in Fulton, New York.
And my friend asked me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding, and she even told me that there would be a friend from France there. I get to speak French.
Bonjour.
Hi.
C'est Olivier. Je suis un ami de Lise, et my dream would be to live in the US.
Bonjour, je suis Sonyth. L'ami de Liz et mon rêve, c'est de vivre en France. Oui, je parlais un peu comme ça avant. That's how I used to speak French. Good thing Olivier didn't mind. And they lived happily ever. Nope.
Nope, we were really different. So different. Backgrounds, families, you guessed it.
And the thing is that it was not happily ever after. And really, really quickly, as we were getting to know each other, we realized that we had to be willing to change our mindset, to accept new things, and we had to be willing to go through a lot of things with our respective families and to leave our comfort zone if we were going to build a future together.
Yep. Learn each other's differences. That's true for couples. It's true in the workplace. It's true with kids. It's true everywhere.
And it's something that, I mean, everywhere, everybody says, companies like to say, oh, yeah, we value difference. But the difference between saying it and actually putting it into practice, it's like as far away as Europe and the US.
So fast forward a few years. By this time, we're married. We want to buy a house, and I talked with my dad. That told me, well, you can buy a little house, little piece of land, or you can build it yourself, and then you can like do something bigger and the way you want it. So I said, yeah, let's do that. Little did I know that was going to be a challenge, and
We were set for another adventure.
yes. The thing is that, and as we're talking about here now, I want to learn. That's one thing I really want to learn. So I said, I want to know how you build a house. I want to know how you do electricity, how you do plumbing. I want to know. I want to be in that house, and I know how to do all this stuff. So I said, yes, let's do that. So of course I did. So my dad helped me with this. So I learned a lot, but it took a lot of time, and it added difficulties to the marriage. So my take from this on the, I'm gonna tackle here just the learning stuff, building a house, and so is get a mentor. The fact that you have a mentor that knows how stuff works, that can help you practice with this mentor. So getting a mentor is true for everything in life. It could be like psychology, it could be like, yeah, building a house, it could be like learning new computer languages, it could be anything, but getting a mentor really helps you like go really really fast, and it was true in my field too, in computer science. There was so many stories where those people, like the mentors, that really helped me to get there. So that was huge, and that was for the learning part. But for the marriage part, there's something else too.
So, as I mentioned before, Olivier was caught up in building our house, and I hardly ever got to see my husband and the daddy of my kids. So this brought a few relationship problems. So when I was wondering what I could do about this issue, I've always loved to read, and I read lots of books. Just ask him. I've got like 25 books piled next to my bed. So I was reading books, and I learned about something called love languages. So I don't know if any of you here know what the 5 love languages are. And so it started with a man in the US called Gary Chaplin, who explained that there are 5 love languages. And we're going to tell you a little bit about a little tool that we invented to help make it a little bit more concrete. Because people say to us, wow, I read the book 3 times, but I never really got it. And now that I see your little tool, I get it now.
So we learn how like relationships work a little bit better, and of course, well, it worked, and people saw the difference, and particularly our kids. And since we're both teachers, we're just like, how can we tell our kids what happened so that they might benefit from this for their life too? So we came up with this. At some point, I want to do something like you've heard already, fun, engaging, so that they will remember and that they would practice. So I said, let's do some origami. So I went from a piece of paper and just playing with it. At some point, I wanted to do a heart. I couldn't, but I made this sort of triangle.
My
thing.
husband is extremely creative.
Thank you. And that was great. And the fun part is that there was sort of like, if you open it, there's like a little like envelope type thing. So it actually, you could put stuff in there. So I put like those 5 languages and tried to talk to my kids about it. And then I'm just like, I learned at work with colleagues that it's really hard for the human brain to be like, okay, can you like say what you like or make a list of something or prioritize something? It's really hard to do this just like this. But it's much better for the human brain to compare things 2 by 2. So one way we did this was like this way. On the left side of the heart triangle thing, it's like less important, and on the right side, more important. So we would start with something like one of the first love languages. It would be like quality time. Quality time is just time with a person where you spend time, like no phone, no nothing. You just listen to the person, you spend quality time with them. So let's put it on the left side, and then you challenge it with other love languages. So the other one is physical touch. Like it could be a hand on the shoulder, like more if you're married, of course, or like with colleagues, like time where you can like do sports together and like anything that's along like more so with physical touch. Some people like, yeah, are more sensitive to that. So you start with this, say, honey, like, would you appreciate right now or a little bit later, like more physical touch or more quality time together?
I appreciate quality time.
Cool. So then you just like sort it like this, you know, and then you keep going. So now it's like
Words, affirming words.
so you start with this, and you're just like, okay, let's start from the left. So would you?
So affirming words are you feel loved when someone gives you a compliment, congratulates you on something, and you say, I love you, or congratulations, you did a good job. And you really appreciate when people say, when people notice the qualities in you.
And this one, so Sonyth, like, would you prefer like some like physical touch right now, like maybe a hug or something, or would you prefer
Affirming words.
Affirming words. So it goes in front of it, and then you keep going. And if it's affirming words or quality time,
I prefer quality time.
so it stays there, right? And you keep going. Now it's gonna be like service, like you help.
Acts of service.
You help, like get out the trash, anything. No, I know.
Helping the kids with their homework.
Right? So I guess this one goes high. So I won't do the whole thing again. You understand? So where would you put this?
So I prefer acts of service to physical touch. And then do you prefer acts of service to affirming words? So I prefer acts of service. And then these two. So do you prefer acts of service or quality time? I prefer acts of service. So acts of service goes
first
in front.
And then we end up with gifts. It could be like physical gifts. It doesn't have to be expensive, or it could be gift of any kind. It's something you offer something that was not like the person doesn't know about it. It's like, oh, thank you.
Just a surprise. So
Surprise.
I prefer gifts to touch.
Yep.
And then I prefer affirming words. So that stays there.
Okay.
And so for me, that's going to be the order. And the most important thing is going to be the first one or the first two. So I prefer acts of service and quality time. And you know that now.
Yeah, exactly. And we just realized that in couples, usually opposite people attract. So the thing is that for the other one, it's the total opposite.
Yes.
Which is sometimes
and it's interesting. It's interesting because for Olivier, it's really the opposite. So for him, it's going to be physical touch and affirming words in the beginning. So it's going to look something like, if I can get these. Yes. So it's going to look something like that, which is almost the exact opposite of mine. So that's why it's really important to know about the love languages and to be able to put them in practice. Because for example, if I'm doing acts of service for him, like I'm going to wash the dishes for him, but he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And if you want to like say to me, oh honey, wow, that's really great. I don't care. I want him to do the dishes.
Exactly. And what works for the couple works also for the kids. But does it really work? Well, one example that we had was that in the car at some point we have 3 girls, and one of them like made a compliment to the other one. And we didn't say anything. So as parents, you're just like, oh, I know my kids. I know what's going to happen. There's going to be a big fight in a few seconds.
Yeah.
And then it started. But then suddenly one of my girls said, oh, but wait.
We had already talked about the love languages before that.
So we did this little thing so that they would understand. And we didn't know if they really got it. But then one of them said, wait a minute. oh, but it's true. It's not your love language, so that's why you're not saying anything. Like, whoa, that worked.
And so the girl who had been on the receiving end of the compliment and had not said anything, she's just like,
Yep, you got it.
and we were amazed because the love languages, knowing about the love languages, actually allowed our kids to avoid what could have been a huge fight in the car. I mean, they have other fights, believe me.
But yeah, they learned something, and they retained
They
it,
learned
and
something.
that's what we wanted. And you say, okay, great, but yeah, that's family, kids. What about work? Well, I talked about it at work, and we did this in the workplace. And I talked to a colleague, Xavier, at some point that told me, yeah, I know about that, and I use it all the time. It works crazy. I was like, oh boy. Okay, so that actually works. Yes. Because people are receptive to different things, right? They react to different needs. And if you know how to navigate this, well, you understand the world much better and you can navigate it like much better. And one another huge other example was like how I'm more like, I'm not a violent person, so I'm more like nice, people would say. So I had difficulties with people that are a bit like, violent in their words and stuff. I had this this boss at the time that was saying like mean things, or she was not mean, but harsh. And I didn't know how to handle that. So one time I said, okay, people told me I'm too nice, I need to be different. So I need to
Stand up for yourself.
Up for myself. That's what people say. So at some point, I really got mad at her because she was saying something. So I got mad. That didn't work, and that was not me. I was all red, and it's not me. That doesn't work. So I was like, what could work? And I discovered this other like nonviolent communication. It's called.
Communication non violente.
Yeah, where I tried it. So well, this maybe I can try that. We'll see if that works as long as it works. And the techniques is like this. There's like 4 steps. So I tried those, and same again. I made like little piece of papers to explain to people, my kids, but also like work, like how that works. So I put this on the floor, and you just walk on it. Yeah. So that it's more like.
So this is the first one.
So the first one is it's facts. So I told my boss at the time, I wanted to talk to her. I said, can we talk? Okay. And then I said, okay, yesterday at the meeting, you said this. That was, and actually we just walk on it. So I like show people, okay, like go on it and you just say the thing. So yesterday, so I didn't do this during the meeting. This is to explain, right? But you got it. What I mean is that you need to have this really, like, you understand this really well so that it's natural, of course, when you say it, otherwise it's weird. And say, okay, yesterday you said that during the meeting. And since it's factual, you don't attack the person or anything. Normally, the person cannot like say, no, I didn't say that or that. If it's really like facts, so like, okay, that's what happened. And the second step, there's a second step. Second step is what makes you feel. So that's a bit harder, especially maybe for men, so you walk on the second one when I explain that, and it's like, okay, now I need to explain what I feel. So it's like, it made me feel so bad or sad, or it was humiliating, or it's hard to find the words, but you need like to really like think about it. And then the first step, so this time, the person I talked to, this boss, didn't say anything. It's like, because I didn't attack her or anything, I just explained what happened. And the first step is your needs. So you walk on the first step and you're just like, okay, I need, as like a member of the team, to be respected. I need this or that. Like you find the words. That might be hard, so rehearse in advance. And then the fourth step is you open as a question, like, okay, now what can we do? How can it be different the next time? What can I change? What can we do different? And the crazy thing is that when I did this, at any point, this person was like harsh, like she used to. She was like, because I asked a question. Well, what do you suggest? I was like, oh, yeah. And we had a great conversation. I was like, that's more me. It's more, I was more, like at ease with that. So I learned a lot with this too, is that I don't have to force myself to be someone different, right? And I think improving your communication skills will make your relationship go much smoother, so in the family, but in the workplace too. And that's something we really need to learn, I think. So marriage relationship renewed brought peace back into our family, and that helped us to concentrate on other things, because you don't fight all the time, so you can do other things.
Yeah.
So it gave me the freedom, for my example I'm going to give right now is, to like explore new stuff. So I spent time exploring during the COVID. How can I teach computer science, electronics? I want to teach and talk. So I went to schools, to my kids' schools, and try to talk about stuff. And then I said, okay, I want to try to explain to my kids how a computer works, a processor works, but it's complex. Like maybe it's impossible to really explain simply. And so I made, my kids solder and show them how how logic gates work and stuff. That was a bit hard, but that was a bit complex. So I said, I need something simpler. And one guy I really appreciate, I read his books, Richard Feynman, you've heard of him, I'm sure, great physicist. But
Nobel Prize winner.
Nobel Prize winner, but he was known for, he was called the Great Explainer. So he explains stuff really well, and like he's really top, like a scientist, but he manages to explain things really simply. And he says, what I cannot create, I don't understand. And creating, like practice, makes it really like more concrete for you. And he has a plan like to learn a concept. Look what he says, like, first one, choose and study a concept. Okay, that's easy. So for me, that was electronic, computer science. Step 2, teach this to a child. Well, yeah, that's what I did. So if you don't have a child at hand, you can practice still like to try to explain really in simple words. That's hard. That's when you realize it's hard, right? And then step 3, return to learning, fill your knowledge gaps. Of course, and concretely that happened when I taught things to kids. I thought I was super smart. Yeah, that was good. But then kids were like, no, what? I don't get it. And they asked questions like, oh, I didn't think about that.
So they always ask the question like, oh, really? I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And kids have this knack for finding the question that you never thought about.
So you got to go back to learning. It's like, okay, I have to explain this first. How does that work? And actually, I don't know how it works, really. So you have to work again. And step 4, simplify further, always simplify. And actually, someone said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Who said that? I think it's Cabby Lane, right? No, I'm kidding. No, that was Leonardo da Vinci. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And in the computer science world, we know this is KISS, keep it simple.
Stupid?
No, straightforward, right? So let's be concrete here for a moment. So I was like, okay, let me try to explain how a computer works for my kids. So how can I simplify it? It's too complex. How do you do that? So I tried to use imagery and different stuff. Like at some point, I found this one worked better even than water. So it was like this ET guy that wanted to go back home, and then he's stuck with the door. And if an ET comes and opens the door for him, he can pass through. Different stuff like this. And what I wanted to do, and I love Legos, is I saw this as, can I work step by step? You got a Lego, then a bigger one, you create bigger ones, and in the end, you've got a working car. And I know it's true, it's possible. I've seen this again yesterday on LinkedIn, someone created a Volvo car, in Legos, that works. But yeah, I know the step here is a little big, but you get the point. So I did that. I started with a transistor. Well, that's the most basic component. And I said, can I do something else? Yes, you can do a little project with your kids and stuff so that it shows how electricity flows. And then my goal was yeah, but then there's chips. And when you use chips, it's you're cheating, right? Because we don't know what's inside. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to buy the chips myself, only if I build it with transistors or components before I can actually prove to myself that I can create the stuff that's inside the chip. So I did this. So every time I bought a chip, I made sure I created it before in simpler components, so that can unlock a game. So that's fun, and I can unlock this. And actually, you can go really far, and you can create a computer from that. And I try to explain also to the kids. I'm not going to go through I'm going to go this really quickly because you can see my talks and conferences on the internet. But I try to explain how you can retain memory. So with 2 transistors, you assemble them this way, and then you've got the little ET that goes for one, opens the door, the other one comes in, and then there's, we call a 1, you store, which is not really storing as you see, it's just current flowing into one direction or another. So, and then you open the door, and then the ET can go through, it goes to the other door, and then you look, there's a 0, there's no electricity flowing, so that's what we call 0, you know. And then I said, okay, I told my kids, okay, there's like keyboard, so input, there's like screen, output, and then what's in the middle, you know. So I would like use switches, LEDs, and like little like displays, and then let's start with a transistor, let's create logic gates, and then let's go on to be able to have all the components to really create a working processor. And actually, for this to also be fun and engaging. And actually, someone, of course, on the internet, everybody has been done before. So this guy, Ben Eder, did it, and he did it like not only fun and like step by step, but it was also beautiful to look at. Because if you see pictures of this on the internet, there's like wires everywhere, and you don't get it. So that was amazing. So I of course, went from his design and tried to also follow in his steps and then do something also differently so that I would learn and have my own difficulties. So I wanted to show you how that works, the one I created. And so there's gonna be like 5, we're gonna do 5 plus 3 equals 8. That's gonna be what, if we were able to do that, we were able to create a processor and to code this, you know, from scratch. So let's do this. We have like memories to retain the 5, the 3, so the 2 inputs, and then add them together, and then be able to store the results in being able to display it. So that's how it's going to look like on the screen. There's going to be on the top right a register, another register with an adder in the middle to store the results. There's going to be an input, and then like different wires everywhere to connect all this together. As I said, like please, if you want to know how that works in more details, I explained it in more like time in my conferences. And let's try that. So in the end, that's the one. I didn't bring it with me. I wanted to, but you know, it's always hard.
Getting it on the plane with all those wires and things, I was a little bit afraid.
Yeah, I did it, but every time I had to explain, like, what is that? What are all those wires? But yeah. So so the way it works is that you just just press switches to work. Like 5 is like 1 or 1 in binary. So you store this, and then you store it in one of the memory, which we were creating beforehand, remember. And so here we go. You've got 101 stored in the first register. Call it A register, whatever. It's the one on top. And then 11 in binary is 3. So we store this on the second register. And as they're LEDs, so you see sort of current, like, you know, flowing sort of, you know, so it makes it more real for kids or grown-ups. And then you add them, so you say, okay, now like we're gonna activate the chips, you know, that adds, so you do this, and then in the end, you're gonna add 8. 8 is 1000. It's really small there, but there's a little red light that opens, it's 1000. So it's like 8. And then you just push the 8s to the output register, and here you go, you've got 8. So you can tell me, yeah, but it's manual. You just do everything manually, and so it's good. But then, if you really want to create a real processor computer, like it needs to be automatic. So little by little, we add modules, step by step, and we end up with a fully working little mini computer on breadboard. Where if I start the video, you can see like 5 plus 3, 8, and then output. So of course, that's the final step, but there's like different steps in between, and I encourage you to look at that. It just works, and it's great. And so what I really realized was that theory is good, and I learned the theory because I was just, I didn't do electronics before, so I was just I'm a computer scientist, but it's the first time I was really playing with this. And practice, of course, is huge, because that's where you really get the thing working, and you've got your own difficulties so that you can learn even better. And yes, we've learned at school that you can copy, it's not good. Yes, you can, but if you do it a little bit differently, you always have your style, and you always learn. So practice and theory go hand in hand.
Yep. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about, it's actually really sort of a miracle that I'm here today, because a few years ago, I was, I couldn't speak in public, never. And so with 2 of my daughters, I participated in a musical comedy several years ago. We went on tour for 18 months. in audiences of over 1,000 people all over France. And this remains to this day one of the most amazing experiences of my life, is to be a part of this theater troupe of 40 people who became like family to me and that would surround me and support me in the difficult times. Because you have to know that for me, going on stage, getting on a stage, I couldn't speak in front of even 5 people. I was so shy, and I couldn't. It was just like a nightmare for me. And so that musical was what really started helping me to get out of my shell. And just 1 year ago now, I did my first conference ever, and it went much better than I thought. And I discovered, to my great surprise, that I actually even liked speaking to people, which was kind of mind-boggling, because it was the stuff of my nightmares. And not that long ago, I would never have even dreamed of doing this. And now this month, in April, I'm speaking at 3 conferences. So here in Tunisia, and one in Belgium, and one in Lyon in France. And now I'm starting to feel this very small change in me, that instead of having it be a nightmare, it makes me excited, and I want to give more conferences. So alone we go fast, together we go further. It's an African proverb, but I think it's really true, is that with people around you to help you, like in my comedy troupe, that's what brought the change in me, and that's what helped me to change my mindset and helped me to go forward, work on my fears and my difficulties.
And at some point in my career, I also choose to leave my comfort zone again, because then you get used to it. That's the great thing. So you keep doing that, and you learn, and you get better and better. And then I wanted to be able to work remotely, maybe to also work internationally. I want to learn new stuff, exciting new technology, and maybe earn more a little bit. That's how you change. Actually, you can earn a lot more sometimes. And of course, I met difficult people told me that no, you can do it again. But this time I'll learn. I was like, no, okay, I'm gonna do it. And the funny thing is that at some point when I changed jobs, at some point the new company said, oh, but we watch what you did on the internet with your conferences, your computer and everything. Actually, if you're able to do that, even if you don't have all the skills you need to come in, we're sure that you're able to learn fast so you can come in. Like, whoa, okay. So everything I just told you before actually even served me to find a new job. So we have value, and you have value. Remember that. And sometimes people don't recognize it, so you need to move. Sometimes, no, you need to stay and persevere. It's true. But wisdom is knowing the difference between the two. Yeah. And remember, it's a journey. So people sometimes push you up, and sometimes they pull you down. Remember to surround yourself with people that push you up. And it's true in the couple. And we try to do that, pushing the other one to succeed. But it's true also in the workplace, definitely. So also, learn from the best. I mentioned Ben Eater. There's also Aurélie Vache, French speaker. She scribbled when she learned Kubernetes and stuff, and now she writes books and stuff. I'm sure you know her. There's Sébastien Blanc, Sebi, if you see me. See, I'm with my wife here on stage. Why do I say that? Because with Sébastien Blanc, he brought his kids on stage. It's crazy. It's great guy. There's also people that makes explosions to teach kids. I would have loved to have this teacher at school, to learn about physics. And there are also wonderful people that are less known sometimes. This is technical optimization. So far as who know, this is a highly difficult technical thing, and here's how they handle it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tail Call Optimization, the musical. There we go. Check out this recursive function. Overflow. Stack size exceeded. Too much recursion. I'm saying no.
this video, but look at it in full. It's crazy, and everything makes sense. At the end of this highly technical thing, you're just like, I get it. And all the way
Even I got it. I'm not a techie.
Man, so this kind of stuff made me like, I want to do that. So on stage, I sometimes remove t-shirts, I play the trumpet, I even play the trumpet in a T-Rex at a keynote in, yeah, I know, it's crazy. You can be a little crazy. You know what? We'll always remember this teacher that, you know, like maybe like climbed on the deck, like to mimic like Napoleon or something. Like you remember this like history teacher or stuff. When he thinks crazy, we remember stuff. So there's one thing, one caveat, we get it all, it's easy. The better the guy explains, it's easier to remember. Well, remember that it's a lot of work, so we work a lot to make things simple, but in reality, it's always a bit like you have some difficulties, so you have to persevere, and that's one thing you have to remember. And we'll end with this. Remember, like we've seen this before, this pyramid.
If you read something, you retain a little bit. Or if you listen to a lecture or you read something, a little bit. If you see an audiovisual, a little bit more. If you see something demonstrated, you retain more. If you discuss with somebody, talk to somebody, you retain more, 50%. Now we're getting into good percentages. If you practice doing something, it's 75%. But the best part is if you teach someone else, you retain 90% of your material.
So go out there, you'll see great conference speakers here today. And remember, at some point they were like you, we were like you. Just start sharing everywhere, and at some point, yeah, you learn so much. So you've seen this.
I've not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas Edison.
So thank you so much. We've got our websites here and LinkedIn profile. Thank you so much. We're really happy to be with you today.
Yes, thank you.